was determined that it shouldn't become the defining event of his life. I must move on, he kept saying. I can't spend years becoming bitter about it. But there's no doubt that it embedded an anger in him, and that it embedded a sense of hopelessness about anything in Britain ever really changing. And his work becomes darker.
He simply had to get his ideas and his vision of England in particular. He had to get it down, whether it was video or celluloid. He couldn't have been a human being if he wasn't working at capturing what he saw around him and what was inside his head. And it was unstoppable. And there's a quote in Made in Britain. Trevor says, "I'm in it for life." Well, it has one meaning when Trevor says it, but I always felt that was what was true about Alan Clarke. He was in it for life.
The banning of the TV version of Scum marked a definite point of progress in Alan Clarke's work. Thereafter, he went on to direct his most challenging drama, nurturing some of the most dynamic British acting talent, such as Ray Winstone, Gary Oldman and Tim Roth.
I'm British!
So?
Well, do you know what that means, do you?
I think so, yes.
You proud to be British, aren't you?
What do you mean, Trevor?
Don't you know I'm proud?
I don't really think about it like that, Trevor.
That's because you spend too much time locked up in here with all these niggers.
Oh, I see. British Bulldog, 1, 2, 3.
I'm more British than you are, fuckface. You hate the blacks as much as I do, and you don't admit it. You hate the blacks more than I do because they frighten you. That's why you lock them up.
Watch your tongue.
You lock up anything that frightens you.
The only thing that frightens me, Trevor, are the people who put sick ideas like that into children's heads.
Trevor, you're not in prison. This is not a prison.
In here, it's just the same as school. Do what we tell you. Think what we tell you. Say what we tell you. Squawk. Be a fucking parrot. I hate you for putting me in here.
One of the most important things for a director to have is very good communication skills. And you have to be a different director to each of the actors that you are working with. And I suppose he would make a very quick assumption about your personality and become part of that.
He was almost completely inarticulate, and yet people understood him very well. The thing that nobody who works in the British cinema likes to face, particularly people who hang around the British Film Institute, is that almost everything that's good in the British cinema has come out of the British theatre. And Alan, like other great British film directors, worked in the theatre first. And this meant that he understood actors. He did it all by suggestion. You knew what Alan wanted. He made everybody around him more intelligent.
He made you feel special. And some directors that I've worked with, they don't realise that when they come in and they sort of just pat you on the back and they say, you know, I saw the dailies, or really good work, fantastic. You know, that'll keep you going. So he would come in and say, I saw the dailies last night, watched it. Fucking great, man. Terrific. We're making it. It's killer. It's brilliant. Keep it up. Or you would do a scene. And he would come, let me shake your hand. He said that was just an honour. He said I was a privilege to watch that. Brilliant. Good acting. And goes a long way. Goes a long way.
You just really wanted to please him and make him happy, and make his vision come alive.
His discovery of the Steadicam marked another crucial stage in Clarke's career. It provided him with the perfect tool to service his quest for honesty and realism. And it kept producers off set, as he could tell them he needed to light for 360 degrees.
It meant that we could do long travelling shots and huge amounts of dialogue in one fell swoop, and that for the actors. I would presume, I can't speak for them, but certainly for me was very liberating.
if you use the Steadicam, it sort of fills in the bits of life between the interesting bits. You go from there to there, so you actually follow a character from there to there. Now, if you were to ask me, I would say, but that's not a very interesting bit. I'd rather cut that bit out and leave it in. He chose to leave it in, and he found a piece of equipment that could deal with those bits and would design whole films around it.
It gave him more time actually directing, being with the actors on the floor. It gave him more time shooting.
Arguably, during the Thatcher years of the 80s, Clarke directed his best work and moved towards a means of expression which turned television into an art form.
I think that Alan felt himself to be opening up towards the end of his life, and I personally regard The Firm as one of his greatest works. I think The Firm is, as I said at the time, an authentic British television masterpiece, of which there are not very many. I think it's one of the greatest films ever made for television.
At the end, when Bexy's dead and they're all in the pub and they're off to Europe, Steve ad-libs a line about if they take football away from us, we'll go to snooker, we'll go to cricket. Well, that was what the film was about. It was about an innate sort of man's hatred of man. It was about violence and not about football. I heard that the BBC wanted to cut it quite heavily. And it was the straw that really broke the camel's back.
I think when things were cut, things that he felt dearly about, and felt that they were important to a piece, then I think that's when he would fight, and I think that's when he got upset.
There's a visceral kind of power in Alan's films. He would call them, he sometimes referred to them as walking movies.
Elephant was Clarke's penultimate film. It's about sectarian murders in Northern Ireland and contains no more than a sentence of dialogue. Having travelled far from the theatre-influenced days of early TV, this was perhaps Clarke's greatest single piece of work.
The one that really blew me away was Elephant. Such a powerful document on the senseless killing. No words, just the killings. And when you see them one after the other like that, I found it very touching and very very moving.
I know that he took a long time ordering the shots, not the shots, but the sequences. That was something that he just thought about for weeks and weeks and weeks, which order he had the sort of sequences in. Just so that, the sort of impact, which was the one to have last, which were the ones in the middle, and I think that was all about pace and to sort of build the tension and to build the surprise at the end.
In Elephant, you are forced to follow, you're part of the assassins. And then suddenly he stops the camera and you get these incredible still lives of horrible violence. And so at one point you're an assassin, and then you're suddenly forced to become an onlooker.
You could almost say it was the ultimate in Dad's work at that point, and in some ways it was a good thing to end on, because he'd sort of taken all of that Steadicam work as well to a sort of conclusion, I think. He is almost, where could he go from there?